Good morning. What is up, guys? It is No Help, and welcome back to another video today. So today, Jagex has changed some of the sailing XP. So sailing XP review and farther fixes. Let's hop right into this. So pull up a chair and hold on to your crystal extractors because this week's update features a whole host of sailing tweaks and improvements alongside some hefty XP balancing changes. Okay, so sailing XP changes. You read the news post title. You've seen the panicked memes about the crystal extractor being thrown aboard, and you've undoubtedly got thoughts of your own regarding sailing's XP balancing. We've been reading all over, watching your journeys, and working with our data analysts to get a real sense of how players are progressing through sailing, where the common pain points are, and the areas that may harm our ability to expand the skill with farther training methods. With all of that combined, we feel like we're ready to make some tweaks to sailing XP. As you might expect, balancing an entire skill, especially one as broad as sailing, is complex, and we were under no illusion that we'd get it absolutely perfect right out of the gate. So that means that while there are some buffs in today's update, there are also a handful of nerfs. We need sailing to make sense long term. It's not an update for everybody to blitz through in a week or two and never touch again. Over the course of the years, it's important that sailing remains relevant, interweaves properly with old school's complex web of progression, and has space for additions to the skill at all level ranges. So while we appreciate that nobody likes a nerf, we hope that you're able to meet us halfway and appreciate that we need to fine-tune things with longevity in mind rather than rush to the finish line. I kind of agree with this, right? I don't like nerfs either, obviously, especially because I'm, going for 99 right now, but I do want them to expand this skill in the future. It's also important to make clear that we're likely not going to get it perfect with these changes either. Sailing has a lot of room to grow and evolve, and balancing changes are something that we'll keep iterating on by working with the community's feedback, pairing it up with our own analytics, and trying to get things just right. So we know that there's a lot we still need to polish up with sailing. So before the end of the year, we'll be putting together an in-game survey using our fancy new polling system to gather your thoughts on a whole host of hot topics. While we're doing our best to prioritize working on what's important to ensure smooth seas for our new sailors, we know there's a lot of feedback out there from all of you and more changes that you'd like to see. So we'd like to really drill down into the details and fully develop our understanding of your feedback so that we can make sure we deliver. This list isn't exhaustive, but you can expect to see questions on things like ship combat, what's the biggest pain points? We've got deep sea trawling, is it appropriately rewarding for the effort required? XP rates, how is the balance of the skills sitting overall? Drop rates, how does the time to complete or time to obtain for various resources feel? I know some of them feel crazy right now, and I kind of thought they would change it, right? Pain point, which of the tougher things for us to fix should we get to first? So Iron/Ultimate Ironman concerns, what unique challenges do players of these account types face, right? Especially the Ultimate Ironman, right? So those are the type of kind of questions. With all of that feedback to look forward to in the near future, let's bring your attention back to now. Before we dive into specifics on the changes we're looking to make today, we've got a quick refresher on where we expect each different sailing activity to sit alongside each other with regards to XP per hour and viability as a training method. So Barracuda trials are the most intensive and skill-based training method and should remain at the top so long as you're an appropriate level, meaning the temper tantrum shouldn't still be dominating your training if you're already level 50 sailing, for example. Their downside is that the XP gained is fairly static and only really scales up with boat speed and player skill. So it plateaus with player skill And yeah, I kind of like that it does plateau, obviously, right, with the skill and obviously the boat upgrades. So this allows training methods unlocked at later levels to eventually surpass them. You can see this effect across the entire skill, where once a new trial is reached, every other method starts gaining higher XP to try to keep up. Career port tasks are the bread and butter baseline for all sailing XP and should be relevant for most of the sailing journey. They are not likely to be the highest XP earners for most level brackets, but may still have their time to shine in level brackets between trial unlocks. Salvaging is a primarily AFK method, allowing players to earn loot while gaining XP. It's aimed to be very second monitor friendly, with the option to participate in one-tick manipulation methods for those inclined for even greater returns in XP. Tick manipulation salvaging without sorting the salvage should be a reasonably competitive option below Marlin rank Barracuda trials for those who prefer this training method, though we'll never balance this method specifically around tick manipulation since we understand it has a reasonably niche appeal. So bounty port tasks are the way to train sailing via combat, but are intentionally not trying to be competitive XP provider, as we'd like to keep sailing focused around non-combat training instead of making it a combat skill. These provide a reasonable option for those who wish to seek out rare sea creature drops while gaining some sailing XP on the side. Yeah, it's one of those things, right, where you're gonna make a lot more money doing something like port tasks, right, especially if you get some of the rare drops, but you're gonna get slower XP. Most skills have something like this with them, right? Deep sea trawling is a fishing and sailing hybrid training method primarily focused around obtaining valuable fish, which you cannot get anywhere else in the game. This is not a significant XP driver in order to keep the price of the fish high, and should instead be considered as a reasonable way for high-level fishers and sailors to earn money as a reward for training their skills. Finally, with the core sailing training methods, we have a level is king. A rule of thumb: higher level unlocks should always try to award more XP than lower level unlocks as a baseline before considering the intensity of the method. So that's interesting to actually take a look at. So time for specifics. So drop, anchor, and take seat. There's a lot to cover. So yeah, the first one right here, I've already noticed it in game. Today, the crystal extractor has definitely been nerfed. So oh god, what did I click? So we'll start with arguably the most contentious part of sailing's XP balancing, the crystal extractor. So this unlock has sparked a lot of conversations and has, in sense, wrapped the majority of sailing's progression around it. So for those not in the know, the crystal extractor is a boat facility that you can build at 73 sailing. For your troubles and roughly around 2 million GP, you gain a facility which generates a wind mote every 60 seconds, granting 600 sailing XP when harvested. It takes 3 ticks, so 1.8 seconds to harvest, or 4 ticks if you count the time it takes to interact with the extractor, meaning that for the time you're actually interacting with the extractor, your effective XP per hour is around 1.2 million. In effect, the single most valuable thing that you could possibly be doing if there is a mote ready to be harvested is by clicking a crystal extractor, which adds up to an additional 34,000 XP an hour for players paying enough attention to click it once per minute. And the thing about the crystal extractor, right, is you can do it with like every method. Like you do it while you're doing the Barracuda trials, you do it while you're salvaging, you do it just while you're doing port tasks, you know what I mean? It's a pretty good thing. So our initial expectations for the extractor were for it to close the gap between lower intensity intensive activities such as port tasks or shipwreck salvaging, right? So if you do this while doing the slower things, if you don't want to do Barracuda trials, it can be competitive XP rates, right? Earlier in development, the interaction time on the extractor was longer than it is now, and it had to be placed farther away from the helm. So we'd balance it, expecting that players would be less willing to pull away from the helm in order to harvest the wind motes. As you might have guessed from the sheer volume of posts around the crystal extractor throughout the community, this isn't quite the case, so we feel changes are needed. So having said all that, we appreciate that many sailors are enjoying keeping on top of their extractor and weaving their harvests in between actions. So we're not looking to completely gut it or remove it from all of you. So we'll be reducing the XP per harvest from 600 to 250. That's actually a huge nerf. So this means that you can earn roughly 14,000 XP per hour from your crystal extractor rather than 34,000. This is a sizable nerf, but one that we think is necessary and one that we'd like to compensate with XP boosts at certain points throughout progression. More on that later. We think this still makes harvesting from the extractor worthwhile with an effective 500,000 XP while interacting with it. This means that we have more freedom to balance other activities appropriately, since we're not having to account for a flat 34,000 XP per hour on top of everything, which makes scaling things up or down a little tougher. Yeah, because if you can just passively get like 30k, between 30k and 14k is like a huge difference, right? Yeah. So alongside this change, we're making an improvement to the crystal extractor, which will allow it to generate charges even when you're at a port. So you can kind of, I think you were allowed to do that at the start anyways, but until you've been disembarked, meaning running around on land for 10 seconds or so. This means that if you're quick, you can pick up your cargo deposit and make it back in time to keep the XP flowing without interruption. So before we dive into specific activities, we'll say that we're not planning on any XP changes to the Barracuda trials since they're already taking a hit with the result of the crystal extractor changes. We're happy with where the XP from trials will sit alongside other options without any farther adjustments, and we're constantly seeing players push the limits here, exploring options like allowing for natural trimming moments, and new more optimal routes are always being discovered to push XP even farther. So we've got port tasks right here, everybody's favorite delivery driver simulator, true. So port tasks are supposed to be a medium intensity method that sits between Shipwreck salvaging and Barracuda trials, offering a comfortable midpoint in XP per hour. While we expect there are still discoveries to be made in order to maximize the efficiency of tasks like this, particularly with a so-called ABA tasks, which you can learn more about these videos from these creators right here. We think there are some points in progression where courier tasks in particular could use a little boost to make them more appealing, more of an appealing option. We'll be increasing the completion XP offered by all courier tasks from level 40 and above by 15%. This should help them shine a little brighter in the level ranges between Barracuda trials where one starts to fall off and you want to progress to the next, particularly at levels 40 to 55 and 60 to 70, as well as make them more appealing, laid-back option for players in the 90s and beyond 99 supporting Rosewood upgrades to max out their boat speed. At this stage, we're not planning any changes to XP offered by bounty tasks for two main reasons. One being that ship combat isn't in the best state right now, and we may need to have a wider review on how to best improve combat before we push it any closer to being the meta at any stage. And the other being that the tasks are supposed to be a nice excuse for you to obtain the bounty target's unique drops while still getting a little sailing XP boost on the side. Yeah, I kind of like almost like see the bounty tasks as like Slayer, where you're gonna maybe get like less combat XP or whatever, but then you have a chance of getting like some money or some drops, right? So deep sea trawling, we've not got any specific changes that we're making here this week, but felt it is important to at least mention that we're aware of the wider discussion that you're all having regarding deep sea trawling. So our intent for this method has always been for it to be lower XP per hour with a solid resource output, fish. So that trawling serves a solid skilling moneymaker. Though that was our intent, we do understand where many of you are coming from with feeling that the XP offered isn't worth the intensity of input, especially with the sailing XP per hour being reduced as a result of the crystal extractor. So no changes to trawling this week, but we'll have conversations around XP and output and whether this is more of a sailing or a fishing activity. Then see what changes we might want to, or we might be able to make that make it more of an appealing method, right? So but not making it so appealing that the economy absolutely floods with powerful new fish, and deep sea trawling causes it to be worthwhile moneymaker. So the thing about deep sea trawling, the way I look at it is you unlock deep sea trawling with fishing or with sailing. So now you have a money-making method you can do to train fishing, right? You kind of unlock a new fishing method, but you use your boat to do it. So I don't mind that this isn't the best sailing experience. I think you're mainly there for fish and for fishing XP and stuff like that. But I mean, you should still gain a little bit, you know what I mean? Especially if they're nerfing the extractor so much. So Shipwreck salvaging. Despite being the simple AFK training method, there's a lot of complexity involved in balancing Shipwreck salvaging because there are so many ways that players can approach it. Here's a quick rundown of all the ways that you've been salvaging so far. So self-salvage, self-sort, no crewmates, self-salvage, Jesus Christ, self-salvage, drop no crewmates, self-salvage, self-sort, assign crewmates to, yeah, you get it. I'm not going to read all of this. There's like the one tick, the blah, blah, blah. I don't want to read salvage 100 more times. So many of these are enabled by the salvaging station, which was an addition made late into sailing's development, which has made two crewmates salvage, self-sort, in particular, a very strong AFK method that allows almost 30 minutes of downtime with solid XP rates, making it arguably the best AFK method in the game, especially when coupled with the additional XP per hour from the crystal extractor. This is compounded by a bug where crewmates are actually salvaging every 3 ticks, making them faster than players who salvage every 4 ticks. So while we love AFK methods just as much as you, and we're no strangers to some second screen salvaging while at work. True, if I worked there, I'd just be AFKing all day. We think that XP per hour on offer from some of these is a little too good for the effort required, which weakens the appeal of port tasks and Barracuda trials and makes it possible to reach 99 sailing without moving your boat much at all. We're looking to make some changes here that might not be easy to understand from the numbers, so we'll state our goals clearly. So nerf AFK salvaging across the board so that its top end is slightly above similar AFK methods like redwood woodcutting. Our rough estimate here is that AFK salvaging methods could top out in the 80 to 90k per hour range. Ensure that moderately AFK methods where crewmates salvage and the player's sorts still result in more XP than dropping the salvage, but tone down the sorting XP so that it isn't significantly better than dropping. Reduce some common frustrations and pain points with salvaging to improve the quality of life. Improve the output of high-intensity salvaging so that players looking for high-intensity training methods have a viable alternative that competes with the Barracuda trials. So now let's dive into how we're looking to realize those goals, starting with all of the ways we'd like to improve your quality of life when salvaging shipwrecks. So player salvaging now runs on a slower 5-tick cycle down from 4-tick, but with increased success rates across all shipwreck tiers to keep XP roughly the same while boosting AFK time. Crewmates will now remember their assigned task over logout, meaning that they'll get right back to salvaging even if you hop worlds. That's huge. So crewmate salvage range will be calculated from the hook's position rather than your boat's position. This should reduce scenarios where crewmates could salvage shipwrecks that you could not, and vice versa. Crewmates will now salvage at the same rate as players rather than outperforming their captain. We'll be adding more double salvage spots to every shipwrecked hotspot, while also making these double spots easier to access and orient yourself so that you're not getting stuck repeatedly. And Jolly Jim's deck handiness has been increased to 4, meaning you'll have 2 crewmates able to use the dragon salvaging hooks. These tweaks should help improve the social aspect of salvaging, cut down any annoyance when getting into the right spot, or hopping at the same location, and improve the consistency with which crewmates do what you'd expect them to. You might have noticed that the list above also states that players will salvage on a 5-tick cycle rather than the 4-tick cycle. This is slower than before, but we're buffing success chances at all tiers of shipwrecks to compensate. This aims to keep XP per hour actually salvaging at a similar or slightly lower than before, but will also increase your AFK time when actively salvaging. Here's how success rates are changing to compensate for this adjusted speed. So small shipwrecks, 11%, blah, blah, blah. So we're really only caring about like the Fremenic and maybe the merchant ones, which is a 16 to 22% increased success chance. Cool. So on top of this, we're buffing XP that you get from actually pulling up salvage for some of the higher tier shipwrecks. So as you can see, the merchant shipwrecks will now give 200 XP instead of 190. You can look at all the other ones too. Interesting. However, we're reducing the XP that you get from sorting salvage to try to better emphasize getting involved on the hooks yourself and reducing some of the strength of the 2 crewmate salvage self-sort method. We love and AFK method, but with sorting XP being as good as it is, we think relying solely on sorting and letting your crewmates do all the salvaging little to AFK to be healthy long term. I mean, 30 minutes is kind of insane if you really think about that, right? But it's a huge nerf, man. So yesterday I was getting 95 XP for sorting my salvage, and now it's 34. Like, that is a huge nerf. So it's hard to put all of this together and understand exactly how each of the appropriate shipwreck salvaging might be impacted. This oversimplified version is that we estimate these numbers to be around a 20 to 30% nerf for AFK salvaging from level 35 shipwrecks and beyond, and around a 20% buff to more high-intensity approaches to salvaging. It's worth noting that majority of the 20 to 30% nerf here assumes that you're maintaining good uptime on your crystal extractor. So if you've been taking it easy and missing out on harvesting every minute, then you'll likely see a smaller reduction in XP per hour. Additionally, shifting more XP onto salvaging rather than sorting means you'll notice more benefits from upgrading your hook. The current whatever that word is, with sorting doing so much lifting, coupled with the sheer volume of XP added by the crystal extractor, means upgrading your salvaging hook multiple tiers doesn't result in noticeable increases in XP per hour, but these increases should be more noticeable with today's update. I do like that when you make an upgrade to anything in the game and you actually see the, like, this is much better. Like, that is nice. I literally just got this muddy doll. I think it's a 1 in 3,000 chance unless they like change the rates of it on something today. That's pretty cool. So we believe these numbers should help bring them into a healthier spot so that there's still a solid social AFK offering, but not so solid that they lead to many players not engaging with other training methods whatsoever. I've seen so many people comment on my videos, especially the Barracuda trial videos, saying, why would I do this when I could just do shipwreck salvaging? And I guess Jagex kind of saw that too, right? Coupled with a bunch of quality of life improvements that should improve consistency, which will boost XP per hour slightly in a way that's tougher to model, and position high-intensity salvaging methods as something that might be competitive, a competitive alternative to the Barracuda trials for endgame sailors looking for a change of pace. Nobody likes nerfs or feeling like they missed out on stronger early XP rates because of real-life commitments, but we hope that you can appreciate our desire to better position sailing's core training methods relative to each other, and now we're equipped with more data and feedback than we could ever have gathered by ourselves. These changes also create more space for us to add new methods or activities in the gaps to flesh out a varied progression curve with a large breadth of gameplay for players to enjoy for years to come. So we can't wait to see what we come up with together as more suggestions for new activities flood in. I kind of agree with them here too, right? I want them to add a lot of stuff with sailing, and if like these methods are already some of the best, they can't really add something that's better, you know what I mean? Like, oh, a new AFK method that's even better, or like a new, I don't know. I think these balancing changes are good for the health of the game, but it does suck when you're, going for 99. Oh, and one last thing before we moving on, we're fixing the horizon lure so that it correctly applies its 2.5% XP boost to all activities in sailing, meaning so for harvesting from the crystal extractor, or sorting at a dock, handing import tasks, trimming sails, collecting crates, and also completing barracuda trials. That's actually pretty damn big. So sailing drop rates and mechanics, so let's talk about the drop rates. So as always, the combined focus of Old School RuneScape Wiki and Runelite mean that you already have a rough idea of what the rates are for any items that you're chasing, but we commit to releasing drop rates in full within 2 weeks of an update so that you can know for sure and perhaps spot if anything seems crazy. There are a lot of items added with sailing, so we'll be putting them into an expand section to avoid cluttering the blog if you're not interested. Okay, I want to see. Okay, so let's just see. So the Shellbang Griffin here, you can get the... Okay, so it looks like pretty damn common drops, right? Boat paints, you can see here. Dragon sheets from Frost Dragons. Oh, on task, it's 1 in 55, but off task, that's 1 in 200. That's interesting. Also, the dragon nails, a 1 in 65 chance. Very cool to take a look at this if you are interested in the drops. I'll kind of scroll through it quickly so you can kind of see the different things here. Huh. I like that they actually give us like all these drop rates now. Very cool. So other sailing changes. So, far, it's been a pretty informative, dense post full of numbers and balancing changes, but it's time to ease up a little and talk through our simple fixes and straightforward improvements this week. There's bound to be something in here that might win a nod of approval from you, so let's dive in. So XP rewards like XP lamps or Tears of Gothics are now able to be used on sailing. A reminder, you'll need to have completed the Pandemonium quest to be able to get XP from these methods, obviously, right? You got to unlock sailing. It's kind of like Herblore. So we've improved the hitbox of lost supplies, so better match their model and make them more like easy to collect. We're almost certain we've got it right this time. So the size of the cargo holds model and click box has been slightly increased to make it easier to click on. Players should no longer find themselves logging in at the last port they visited if they logged out their boat or logged out with their boat docked at a island's mooring point. That was really frustrating for a lot of people. Shipwrights can now repair your boat for 50 GP per hit point. So that's pretty cheap, honestly, especially because you don't want to have to go out of the way to maybe make some of the repair kits. Boats will now heal to full whenever their keel or hull is upgraded. Cargo crates from courier tasks no longer count towards the cargo hold storage cap for Ultimate Ironman players. Note that this is a temporary fix until we work with UIM players to settle on a better long-term solution for Ultimate Ironman grips with the port tasks. So they removed some invisible walls. That's cool. Chum stations now have all their sailing requirements for use, matching their sailing requirements for building. Meaning if you can build one, you can use one. Default settings have been adjusted so that using the check materials button on boat upgrades will display a message in the chat by default. Diving gear is no longer detected when disposed into the cargo hold. A helmet relative mermaid riddle solution has been updated to incorporate another correction solution. We fixed a bug where players sorting merchant salvages were being told that they did not have the sailing level requirement to sort through it in some scenarios. Players can no longer walk onto stable tiles in Varlamore and teleport themselves to the ports. The port there, okay. Planks from the plank sack are now usable when building facilities on a boat. That's really nice. The captain's log no longer suggests that there is any evidence of the Shirhai to the west of whatever island because of the evidence is actually to the east. Our bad on this one, but well done to any explorers who did. Okay. Frost dragons have their respawn timer made faster. They'll now respawn every 4.5 seconds, down from 18. That is huge. And frost dragons can now be fought in the cave that's only accessible on Slayer tasks. So there's like a separate one, I guess, for on task, which is going to be nice because I know frost dragons are fairly busy. So just in case you missed it, we made a handful of hot fixes, blah, blah, blah. The crystal extractor now resets its progress properly when a new Barracuda trial is started. Fixed a bug where players were able to board other players' boats during the Gwyneth Glide, which some players abused to... Oh, that's actually really interesting. So some players abused to set unbeatable world record times. We also reset the world record times alongside any illegitimate obtained personal best as a result. Wow, the people in this game like shock me. It's crazy. Z buffer graphical fixes. So following our big leap into the 3D depth with our new Z buffering system, we've been hard at work smoothing out some of the quirks you've spotted. Thanks to your reports. A batch of visual issues has been addressed. So here's what we've added. So players owned house constructions and decorations now display correctly with all textures and details appealing as intended. I actually had a problem with this with a couple of my necklaces on the wall or whatever. Updated the Shiloh Village gem mine entrance so it displays as open rather than blocked when viewed. The fireplace on a wall near Othis Farm no longer clips with the building. Fixed the ancient mushroom reflection at Fossil Island and the wall near the Fortis Coliseum, so they now display correctly without flickering or visual glitches. Quetzal tails no longer clip through hay piles. The Seed Vault shadow now displays correctly without flickering or overlapping with the floor. Ritual cycles from the Enchantment of Forestry event now sit correctly on the ground, preventing them from clipping or uneven terrain. So it's always nice to see these little graphical things being fixed. And it looks like there's some merch. That's kind of cool. Some more stuff. You got the turtle and some shirts and stuff like that. And RuneScape, a new book. That's a really cool looking thumbnail for that book. And yeah, other changes. So fixed a bug where players received the guaranteed mimic on the 26th casket or 11th master instead of the 25th. The Blue Moon spear special attack, how only on, or I think they meant to say now, how only unfreezes NPCs that are legitimately frozen or bound, working correctly on Yama while preventing unintended freezing of other bosses. With the exception of PvP and Deadman worlds, players who start to harvest an allotment and in the same tick use the same produce on a compost bin will once again continue harvesting and composting automatically until the patch empties or the compost bin fills. This had stopped working because the core for using items on scenery while breaking blinding effects such as the ice spells, as those effects tend to matter most in PvP. We're restoring the ability to use the compost bins in that way, but only on non-PvP worlds, also excluding Deadman. Corrected interface positioning to remove the gap on top of the screen while moving the map on desktop. The water pump site at Varkocious Island now updates its appearance correctly when you build the pump. A troll face has been removed from the thieving skill guide. Okay. And that looks like it's about it. So yeah, definitely some nerfs today. As you can see, that was my crystal extractor. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that we're gonna get used to over time, and I'd rather them make these changes now than like a few years from now or like when it's too late. And I also want them to expand sailing and make it as good as it possibly can be. I've been very AFK, and I'm getting about 65k XP an hour. I think it was like over 100k yesterday, so yeah, that's pretty bad. Especially like the 35 XP for freaking salvaging now is pretty bad compared to like the 95 that it was. But let me know what you guys think of these down in the comments below. Do you think this is good? Do you think they did a good thing here, or are you really mad that you didn't get to use the hell out of the crystal extractor like a lot of other people did? But yeah, if you guys did watch the whole video, comment all down in the comments below. I can't believe I got that. That is crazy. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I will catch you in the next one. See ya later.